What lies outside your front door? What's happening before you even walk outside your front door? I'm here today with Feng Shui expert Myrna Brown, and she's going to share some Feng Shui tips that affect your health, wealth, and relationships in the front of your home. All right, welcome Myrna. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin, do you want to just give a very brief explanation what Feng Shui is for those of us that might not fully comprehend?
Absolutely. Feng Shui is a way of looking at our physical environment, so typically our homes, sometimes our offices, and seeing how we can manipulate them, change them a little bit so that we feel better in our environment, that they can serve us better, and then our life gets better.
Right, okay. So it's a very big subject. So today we're just going to be talking about the outside of the home. And what's good for Feng Shui is actually good for selling your home and living in your home.
Absolutely. It's quite practical knowledge, what we have and what we use in our surrounding environment. So that's inside our home, and it's also that little area outside our home that's still our property. So the one thing that is one of our pillars in Feng Shui, there's 3 pillars, and the front entry is everything from the curb right up to the front door. So this is a great example of how it impacts us. And first impressions are vital. First impressions can have someone decide to skip by on that first shot that they see of your home, or if they're coming to look at your home, or even if it's a guest. They make an instant first impression, and that's a lasting impression that's really, really hard to change. So sometimes when we have people that come and view a home or are trying to sell a home or invite new people into their lives, that is a place where they have an opportunity to really make a lasting impression that can change relationships, can change a career opportunity, can change incredible amounts of things in their lives.
Say these days the curb appeal is more important than ever because of that first impression. What happens when we put a property on the market is it automatically gets emailed out to everybody that's looking for that particular kind of property. And what they'll do is they'll drive by, and if it has great location and curb appeal, then they'll decide to go in. But if they don't have that great first impression, then they won't even go that far. So.
Exactly.
We pulled a couple examples before we started here. Did you want to? We've got a poor example of a front, and we've got a good example of a front. Do you want to point out a few things?
I'd love to. So in this picture, we have a very dark-looking entry. We have some trees up here that are showing or blocking the light that's entering the home, and that actually affects our vitality. But from the street, it also is sending a bit of a message that dark, a little bit more gloomy. It's a little bit harder for us to feel engaged and enlivened by looking at this space. So where we place our trees is really important. And in this particular situation, I would recommend that for their own sake, even if they're not looking at selling, but wanting to live in this home and feel better in their home, to remove one of the trees, possibly this one, even to send, chop this one down a little bit or even trim it so that they have more light coming into their home. And then from there, I would, there's a fence here that I also think is sending a little bit of a stay away feel to it. And, putting a nice little string of lights down that fence would really make it look attractive to us. And even along the staircase and the cement pad up to the front door, I would also consider enhancing that by putting in some perennials, some greenery, some brightly colored flowers. It would open up that space, and people would feel different as they're transitioning from the curb into the home.
And this tree, these probably looked really great when it was first built, right? A nice little tree there, but they grow up.
Right, and that's such a common problem when we purchase our trees and plant our trees. We don't consider that, what's this going to look like in 5 or 10 years? And some can grow quite quickly. So that is a consideration. I would recommend never to plant a tree directly in line of the front door.
Okay.
Or never in front of a large front window.
Right. Okay.
Just off to the side is so much more appealing.
So, did you want to say something before we moved on?
So I was going to say, if you want to flip to the next picture, I've got a great example. This is on the same street, same era of home, completely different feel. This home is open. It's inviting us in. The tree is off to the side. It's not blocking the view of the front door and our view of the home. It feels a lot more alive to us. We want to slow down. We want to look at this property. If it's our own home, we feel better just coming home to that.
And it's very similar layout. You can see with the tree at the front and a shrub rather than large tree there. So this would be an opportunity as well, because that other home, if you're buying a home, that would scare away a lot of buyers and they wouldn't get as much money for it. So if you're buying a home, this is where you can have some opportunity, because curb appeal really makes a difference in the value. So
huge change, yeah, and it's really a kind of a small thing to change.
Yeah, but even if you're not going to be buying or selling, there's benefit to doing it, right? Like, how does it affect us when we are living there?
Right. So this space from the street up to the front door is a transitionary space, and in Feng Shui terms, how we feel as we leave our home, it's a space that we can transition from our home, our sanctuary, out into the world. And it's also a space when we return from that day away, back into our space, it's a nice space for us to transition into our home. And that space is important to us. It should be welcoming. It's a place for us to slow down when we're coming home and, be welcomed into our own space. And when we're leaving our home, it's another space where we can just, gently go back out into that world. So it's important that we like this space as well. It should not be blocked by clutter or bicycles or debris or Calgary recycle bins, right? We need to keep that space open for us. And a little TLC, if it needs a little paint, or if it's a little fence, a little paint, a few lights can go a long way for how we feel.
Have you ever seen any examples of how the outside actually reflects the transitions that are happening in people's lives?
Oh, yes. I've got a great story about that in regards to what's happening in our own lives and how it manifests or how it shows up in our physical world. So when I was in high school, my father was getting close to retiring, and he was at a place in his career where he was quite stressed, and he was trying to block out the world. And this small hedge that we had at the front of our property, he allowed to grow up and grow up and grow up until it became this massive hedge that was over my head, and it was sending a message out to the world: stay out and stay away. And even if we understand this or not, subconsciously we do understand it. We feel it from when we're looking at spaces. Yes, this is inviting. That big hedge in front of my parents' home was not. And I remember being terrified coming home later in the evenings and having to zip through that hedge to get to the front door. It sends a very big message out to us, to the world and to ourselves. We're always talking to our environment, and the environment's always talking back to us. And the interesting thing there is that when my dad did retire and his stress levels started coming down and the world seemed like a brighter place for him, so did that hedge. He started trimming it and bringing it down. And that's another way we can help ourselves, is we can choose to bring down those hedges that are in our lives, and then our lives can get better. Right? So we can alter our environments. And here's just such a good example of this home, this family, I suspect, is very open, very happy in their environment. It's a bright, welcoming space.
But as you said, you can change the environment and have it affect us as well, so it doesn't have to be the opposite. So that's some things that people can do to change their lives, change your space, change your life.
Right,
So,
absolutely.
well, thank you for those tips. If you want to know more about Myrna Brown and Feng Shui, and those of you that are concerned about chopping down trees, she's got a ceremony that makes sure the trees are looked after too. So contact her about that. We'll have her information on the screen here. Until next time, I'm Eric Mortimer, real estate agent and agent of change, helping you solve your problems and realize your dreams.